Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you happen to be watching. This is Risco in Tokyo coming at you with some more, well, actually not more anything. We're just going to be taking a look at a couple of hubs that we've done over the years, some of them that we've seen in Little Bite-sized Planet, and some of them that have only shown up in roughly Minutes Fresh, and looking at kind of the background and what I was thinking of when I was making them, a little bit of lore, a little bit of mechanics, things like that. Hopefully we'll find something interesting, but maybe not, I don't know, but let's have a look. Alright, so here we are at one of my favorite sets. This is Has Beans, and interestingly this is the latest set. This was the last set that I made for roughly 50 Minutes Fresh. It debuted in Season 2, Episode 50, that would be November 16th, 2018, and we used it for just 2 episodes, which makes sense because the seasons were only 52 episodes long. And basically the idea was I knew I wasn't going to be doing a 3rd season of the show because it would be kind of committing to 52 episodes of a fair amount of work every week, and I knew I didn't really have the energy to be able to make that kind of commitment, so I wanted to kind of wrap up everybody's character and kind of give them something to do after the show. And the idea was that, you know, my character was going to be operating this this coffee shop, Has Beans, which was purchased with money. I don't remember what the lore, where that money came from, but maybe we stole it, who knows. But it was very reminiscent of a lot of coffee shops that I spent time in my young adulthood in Milwaukee in the mid to late 90s when I was in university, before Starbucks had really moved out of the West and kind of basically took over the coffee shop world. My first job, or at least one of my first real jobs in university, was working at the campus coffee shop. It didn't have purple walls like this, or well, fuchsia walls like this, but it was kind of nice, it was cozy, and there were other places that I spent a lot of time in that had this kind of feel, and that was what I was looking for. A lot of the sets that I did in the 2nd season were focused a lot on kind of an emotion that I was trying to convey, more than a very detailed real-world space. So it's kind of like what are signifiers of this looking at, and not specifically like, does this look exactly like the space that it is, like we saw with the train station set in the last hub episode. This has got a day-night cycle that's like triggerable within the set. I don't know why I did it that way, since it would be easier just to like turn it on and turn it off in the create mode. But we can see during the day that the baristas are a little bit more active. They're kind of walking around, dancing around in the back there. The curtains go up, and well, the curtains disappear. They don't go up, and we can see that crafted in the back there. It's all decorated in the back. There's like posters and stickers on the walls and things like that, and I really just, I love the feeling of this set an awful lot, and it's one of the reasons that I wanted to continue using it in roughly 50 minutes in Little Bite-sized Planet. The other reason is that, as we're going to see when we go into the crate mode, that it's actually a relatively simple set from a setup standpoint. There's not like a lot of work that needs to be done to actually get it ready for a new episode, which is, you know, very important for me. The whole gimmick, I love this sign. It's a simple animated sign, but I still love it. But Has Beans, my original idea was that the coffee shop was going to be staffed by characters from video games that used to be popular but weren't popular anymore. I realized going through the costumes that I had from DLC that the only characters that really fit that Gravity Rush, and I wasn't going to do Cat dirty like that, so I ended up just using the Yellowhead and the Paperboy costumes, although I realized fairly recently actually that I could have just used LBP2 story mode characters, and that would have also been funny as a joke. One last thing to point out before we go into create mode, but this ground is not grabbable. The ground is not grabbable, but let's take a look backstage and see what it looks like. Alright, so here we are backstage, and we can see that it's really not a particularly complex construction. We've basically just got the box for the coffee shop, and a little bit of frontage for the sidewalk and the road, and that's like it as far as the construction goes. The logic as well is not super intricate going on here. We've just got the we've got the day-night cycler here so we could switch it between nighttime and daytime. I don't know why it starts off in that like gray, like murky night mode when it should be the darker night mode, but there you go. That's just the way it goes sometimes, but it's easily changed like that. Most of the logic is just going into turning on opacity tweakers and changing a little bit of character animations for movement, but like nothing particularly difficult, nothing particularly involved. Probably the most involved stuff as far as logic goes is this fairly early ActBot build that I've got going on here, but we can see that it hasn't really changed all that much from this 2018 build to the build that I'm using today, but very much like what we saw in that the patrolling enemies tutorial that I released last week. You know, we've got these the different tag sensors that are feeding into the batteries, and the batteries are being triggered by these tags here. It's a little bit different. The new system uses nodes instead of AND gates, but there you go. Like, that's basically it. That's like the biggest thing that's going on in the set. We do see that the thermo is pretty high, and most of that is from all of the different decorations and stickers. Also the fact that for such a small set, there's a lot of materials going on here. Now some of these aren't entirely necessary. Like, I didn't need invisible material. I could have just used a different material and made it opaque. I don't know why I used invisible. I just did, I guess. But there's a lot of decorations here, and I like the way I used some of the decorations for kind of alternate usages. We got the tables are just coins, and the lamp covers, the lamp shades are just hi-hats from the Adventure Time kit. There's like a bunch of stuff that I use from Adventure Time, but the wall as well. I really love the materials in the Adventure Time kit. I think it's really, really nice. Now, one thing that I had wanted to do and didn't actually end up getting done with this set because of thermo was I'd wanted to have kind of like an endless looping line of customers here during the daytime, where they would like walk from the right to the left, and they would get their order, and then they would walk here, be turned invisible and sent with a follower, like at super speeds back to here, and then like kind of do the whole process over again. But I figured it would take like at least 7 or 8 customers to make the effect look right, and that many costumes was just too much for the thermo to handle. So I was like, well, I guess not. I guess we're just gonna not, basically, and so we didn't. But otherwise, like, all of this stuff is just really, really simple. The animation for the sign is just 2 sticker panelings that are being swapped back and forth with a timer and a selector. Like, nothing hard there, nothing really big. Yeah, like, it's a really simple set. It's super easy to get ready for an episode. It's super easy to like take down, so to speak. So it's one that works both from I like this set a lot, I enjoy the way it looks, I enjoy the way it feels, and I like using it, but also B, from a practical standpoint, that it's just like, it's just simple, and it lets me get into the analysis section of the videos like really quick. So that's why we keep coming back here. But to move from a set that I really enjoyed and I felt was, you know, really successful in a lot of different ways, to a set that I don't particularly enjoy all that much and will probably never be seen again outside of this video. But let's go a couple stories up in the tower to our boardroom. Alright, so here we are in the boardroom, and this is probably my least favorite hub that I did. It's weird because I hate it because it was successful for what I was going for. I was doomed by my own success, hoisted by my own petard. But this, in the story of the roughly 15 Minutes Fresh show, the previous hub that we'd been in had been destroyed by an Eldritch abomination that had been summoned by a homeowners association that thought that we were lowering the land value and didn't like us very much. So there was this extended period where we were kind of thrown through time and space, and we're doing different hubs like every week. for, I want to say like 10 weeks maybe, and they were all really complex hubs, and they were all like difficult builds. They were very busy. There was a lot of things that needed to be done for them, a lot of just like testing things out to make sure it looked right on camera, and I was kind of exhausted by the end of all of that, and I just wanted like a simple, clean space. Something that wasn't going to be too difficult to manage and to kind of set there for a while. So this hub was, it debuted in season 1, episode 44. That's 2017, September 22nd, excuse me. Don't know why I said 9th. And the idea was that it was one of the characters, one of like the main characters, the host characters, her sister ran a security company, and this was one of her unused conference rooms, and we were just kind of borrowing it for our show. And so I was going for this kind of like clean, corporate, cold feeling, like very, very big, very dwarfing the characters, even more so than my usual sets, which all tend to be over large. You may have noticed that in the Has-Been set, where a lot of the set is like off camera, because I was really worried about things showing up on camera when things were tilted, when cameras were tilted. But this, like, even beyond that, it's so much bigger than the players. But we had these screens in the background, and kind of the idea that there would be like a dais here, and somebody would be presenting and kind of giving their corporate presentation. And we've got the boardroom table here, although this is set up for a Nabe party. Like, I don't know why. The last time, before trying to do this episode, the last time I was in this set was actually April 27, 2018. That's like almost 5 years ago. I don't remember 5 weeks ago. I don't remember 5 days ago. 5 hours ago is kind of stretching it. So, like, I don't really know what's going on. But, yeah, I honestly just grew to hate this set for a lot of reasons, one of which was that it was so big and so empty that I found myself like having to do things in the set to just like make it interesting to myself and hopefully make it interesting to viewers, but that ended up being just as much work as what I had been doing for the sets previously. There was like one episode where the two of the host characters had built these giant cardboard forts that had cannons on them, and they were having like a mock war, and they were shooting score bubbles at each other, and the score bubbles would explode when they hit the other cannon, and the cannons had like hit points to them, and when they got hit enough times they would explode. And like, I had to set all of that up, and I had to test it a dozen times to make sure that it worked. There was one bit, this is kind of funny, a little bit of musical lore. Now keep in mind that I figured my stuff out like mid-2019, and I didn't come out to the world until June 25th of 2019, like kind of announcing that I was trans, but I kind of be like somewhere in June. I kind of came to the final decision in my mind, but I was using this set like in 2017, 2018, and so there was an episode that we were going to be doing for, it just happened to be on the 9th anniversary of LittleBite-sized-Planet, and when that was upcoming, and I'd actually, in the real world, I had made the mistake of thinking that it was the 10th anniversary for some reason, and then somebody on a forum, they were like, no dog, it's the 9th, and I was like, well, let's roll that into a funny joke. Why don't we use that for the show? And I set it up so it was like, I made this cake, and I was gonna jump out of the cake, and I was gonna be wearing a dress, and that was the first time that I wore a dress, like, as myself anywhere, and that was like 2 years before I came out, and certainly long before I was like really seriously thinking about like my own situation and being queer and things like that. And in story, like, the front mind excuse for this, because like, of course I had to have an excuse for this, because I thought I was a cis guy at the time, and I was like, well, one of the hosts is a gay guy, and I can't ask the gay guy to wear a dress because that would be, you know, really stereotypical and kind of gross. And the other host was the only lady on the show, so I couldn't ask her to wear the dress because that would be sexist. So I guess I'll have to wear the dress and take one for the team. Now keep in mind, these other characters weren't real people. There were no other actors in the show. It was just me. So, like, I was considering the imaginary feelings of imaginary characters, and then I went through the process of making that whole bit work. Was so much work because I didn't really get how, like, working with like collision and physics tweakers and things like that, how that was really going to work. So I had to do like all this testing, and I had to do all this setup and all this build and working with logic just for like a minute-long bit where I got to wear a dress. And like, okay, you can be a cis guy and like to wear dresses. That doesn't have anything to do with your gender. It doesn't even have anything to do with being queer. You know, could be perfectly straight and cis and a guy and still want to wear dresses. But there was definitely some wheels turning in my brain at that point that I needed to go through so many hoops to excuse the fact that I was going to be, you know, wearing a dress for this. I wish I could remember now how I felt about it then, but really my memory doesn't work with that amount of granularity. I've got like a lot of, I mean, there's like a lot of interesting things that I tried in this set, and the set is successful in its own way for like the emotional tone that it conveyed, but that was part of the reason why it was such like a failure for me, because I was going for that, like that corporate tone, that cold tone, and I hate places like that. I hate that design aesthetic. I hate that feeling, and I succeeded, and so I kind of failed at the same time. But we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to go backstage and talk a little bit about why I also failed in the practical side of making a set that was easy to do and easy to set up week by week. But let's take a look behind the scenes. Alright, so here we are behind the scenes, and already you can see that the set is just like a mess. There is so much going on with it. There are so many little moving parts and bits of logic, and it is just so empty. Look at how big all of that is. It is just like a giant space. And that's why I went through the trouble of doing all these boards in the background. The idea was like that they're monitors, and sometimes the monitors would lose their video feeds. You might have noticed that in the section that we were just talking in the actual play version of the set, where the monitors would be like bluing out like this. So basically the way I did that was I would have a single piece of sticker panel here. This is like the 5th time I tried to record this, so that's why it's already partially done. But I'd have a single piece of sticker paneling. I would put on like a big sticker of a set that I had to make for the show that week, like some kind of thing I could take a picture of, and I would use these to cut slats in the sticker panel so that it became all the different little screens. And you can see that there's logic gridded off on it, where they get different prompts that will tell if that the sticker panel needs to be invisible or not. I don't even like know how they work because it's been so long since I played around with them, and I don't even want to dig into like figuring it out. But there was like a grid here, and every week I'd have to erase, delete every one of these panels, and then move it over so that it would fit on top of all of these panels here, and then move it all back into place over here. We see, like, I don't know, like, what is this? This is the weirdest setup for random logic. Like, there's like 3 or 4 different layers of random logic going on in this, and I don't know why. I don't know, like, I have no idea how this is set up, but I know I wouldn't set it up like this right now. There's like all these selectors, like, why though? Why though? Why though? Why any of this? There's these panels that come up, and they form a light bridge in between them, and the characters could walk across the light bridge, and it's just like, and all of these panels here, they would have to be changed. to match like the theme of whatever the sticker was for that week. So like here we've got a park scene. So we've got, you know, blue sky and clouds here. We've got grass and like a little bit of water here. And it's just like, oh my god, just get me out of this set. I never want to use this set again. I'm going to delete this set. It's going to go away forever. Say goodbye to it. Goodbye. Goodbye, boardroom. Never seeing you again. See yas. Alright, so here we are in what was called New Hub, spelled like new metal, and I hate that, but it's in my notes. This hub debuted Season 2, Episode 1. We wound up using it for 24 episodes. It was quite a long time. And I think it was pretty clear, like I was with the boardroom, I just wanted to move towards, like, simple hubs that I could use, but unlike the boardroom, one that it would actually be a simple hub for like things like setup that I wouldn't really have to deal with like a lot of BS getting it ready for episodes, and also that it would have a much cheerier and more like livable feeling, where the boardroom was like very corporate and very cold, and this I wanted it to be more welcoming, more warmer, a place where people would actually like to spend time. And kind of interesting, something I didn't really notice and think about until I was doing this episode right now. The layout of this is very reminiscent of my ex-wife's parents' restaurant, or at least like one view of the restaurant. These the raised seating area over here, like if you imagine a door that was entering right here, and then everything that's on the left over here would be like table, and there was a counter, like a coffee shop counter over here, but there were this raised section in the back where you could have like family group meals and kind of longer tables actually, and more zabuton, more like cushions to sit on. But I never realized, but there's probably something in my subconscious, my unconscious mind, because I've got a lot of good memories of that place. And even the ceilings, like the ceilings are very reminiscent of the ceilings in her parents' home. But I love Amami Oshima, where her parents live and where she's living now. And I loved that restaurant. It's being torn down, unfortunately. And I think that on some level I was thinking about that when I was making this hub and just maybe not realizing it. From a practical standpoint, it's an open section, whereas in a lot of my very, very early hubs, this background section here would have been closed off, and the two host characters would have been up here, kind of locked away from where I would be running around in the front. But this setup allowed for more like interaction between myself and the other Sackbot characters. They weren't Sackbots, they were actually characters, but they were costumes on Sackbots, you know what I mean. But otherwise, like, there's not like really a lot to say about this hub. Thematically, story-wise, it's in the same building as the coffee shop on the ground floor, and the boardroom was like a couple stories above that, and this is like a couple stories above that. They're all within this same tower. It's kind of on the outskirts of the city, and we can see the city a little bit in the background and the train going by every now and then, but really it's just like, it's a nice looking, relatively simple hub that I was really happy with, and I was really happy to spend a lot of time in. It's probably not one that will end up getting used in Little Bite-Sized Planet, because it's really, I feel like it's too big for what's going on in that show. And one of the big issues I find with like indoor environments especially is that you do have to kind of make them over large, because it's really hard to proportion things down to sack things size and make objects look like they're the right size. So you either have to build like a larger sack thing, or you have to have objects that are really kind of quote-unquote too big. Like this bookshelf, I mean, if you think about this in relationship to my character, and the bookshelf is like well over my head, but it looks kind of right. Like when you see it as an object and there's nobody standing near it, it does look kind of right. So there is like that kind of issue. Or you make everything like really, really tiny, and then you start getting like things where the room is very cramped because the ceiling is very close to the character's head, and the objects look deformed because they're really too small. So yeah, like, you tend to get kind of over large sets like this. One little detail that I kind of like, you got these wormy things in the walls and all the piping in the walls, and I thought that was a bit of a nice detail. If I can blow my own horn for a minute, but I think that worked out fairly well. But that's basically all of it, and we'll take a quick look in the backstage. But I don't really think there's too much to say about this one. But let's take a look. All right, so here we are in the backstage, and it is actually just a really simple set. My setups for episodes, like, basically was just changing what global lighting I wanted to, if I wanted it to be like a little bit more daytime, or if I wanted it to be evening. I might change up the lights a little bit, but there's not a lot in the set itself that really required me to do very much work, very much resetting, and that was really, really nice. That was really, really useful, and was one of the reasons why we were able to spend like so long here. That it just was a pretty cruisy set, pretty easy set to make. Got this nice little boombox. Like I said in the last hub episode, I do diegetic music coming in, and so we've got this. I don't really know what's going on with it though. It's like digital, but it's also got reel to reel, and that doesn't make any sense. Also, these should be, I think, moving in opposite directions. I don't know. Like, I haven't seen a reel-to-reel player in forever. The background is just like super simple. I didn't really have to build it too far down because the windows here really like cut off how much we can see. And there's actually like very little of the background that we can actually see. It extends out more than is necessary from just about any camera angle, just to be safe. But yeah, it's all just simple. Like, it's just wood with stickers on it and then just cut out, and then some sticker material for the very last layer of it. The train as well, it's just on like it's on a minute timer, and it will let's take a really quick look. Stay. Yeah, it's on a minute timer, and it will just go forward to follow one, and then it'll go the other way to follow the other. Nothing difficult, nothing weird there. The lights are just a sticker panel, and probably the most quote-unquote complex thing that I did was just carving out bits here so that it would like shine through, so the lights would shine through. But like, yeah, this is it. It's a nice hub. I enjoyed it. Probably not going to be using it too much for, like, probably not going to be using it ever for Little Bite-Sized Planet, but, you know, again, like, it gets to be immortalized here. Got a little bit of artwork on the walls. I like that artwork. It turned out pretty nice, so, yeah. That's all I gotta say. It's good. It's a nice hub. And we're going to take a look at the last hub, and one of my favorite hubs, much like the coffee shop set, but let's head up to the roof. Alright, so here we are in the last hub that we're going to be looking at for this, and it's just like, it's a simple rooftop hub, but I just really like the way that it feels. I like the way that it looks, and it's this type of space that I really like in the real world. There have been a few friends who've lived in apartments where the rooftop was accessible, and every now and then they would have parties on the rooftops. And I've been to a lot of like rooftop beer gardens in Japan because they're fairly common here, although obviously not since the corona has been spreading across the world and causing all the trouble, but also because I don't drink anymore. But yeah, like, I love being on rooftops. Like, it's cool, it's neat, get to see the whole view and everything. And so I had really wanted to do a set like this, and this actually debuted in Season 2, Episode 37. That would be August 12th, 2018. We ended up using it for 7 episodes, which is fairly decent, fairly chonky. But yeah, like, it's just, there's not like a lot to say about the set so much as just it's cool and I like it. I like I like the sign that's going on here. I like that I actually remembered to put a doorway into the hub itself, and that door would open. There's some logic that would open up that door. The only thing, like, I wasn't happy with how it turned out in the hub was that the satellite dish up there, and I could never get the timing to work right so that the little lightning bolts would flash when they were actually being pointed at by the satellite dish. I could never get it to sync up in timing, and I tried it. Trust me, I tried it, and it never quite looked right. So eventually, ignore that. That was an alarm because I was going to take a nap. So it never quite looked right. So eventually, I just said, you know, to heck with it. Like, just leave it. We're just going to leave it as it is, and fine. But we're going to take a look at the logic in the background here, and yeah, let's give it a look. Alright, so here we are backstage, and we can see that there's a little bit more going on with the build and the logic, but honestly not that much that needs to be kind of tinkered with for setups for Little Bite-Sized Planet, kind of leftover stuff from earlier on. We've got this big piece of sticker paneling here, and basically this was because I had an issue where the characters, when they would jump near this ledge, they would actually jump up on top of the ledge, and I didn't want that because I just thought it didn't look really good as an effect. So I just set up a little bit of sticker paneling that would activate a mover. So, you know, when they hit the sticker paneling, the mover would push them back, so they couldn't actually get up onto this ledge. And we see something a little bit similar with this bit of invisible material in the back here, where when I had characters and they were trying to step on the button, a lot of times they would just hop up onto the ledge behind, and I didn't want that. So again, I just put a little bit of material to block off that section so that when they did their little hop to get onto the button, that it wouldn't take them away from the button. We got the doors here, and they're just another set of sticker paneling. Well, actually these are rusty metal but opacity tweaker, but they can be triggered so that the doors will actually open and close. But like, most of that isn't really anything that I need to do to play with for Little Bite-Sized Planet. We do have, and this is kind of interesting, but in the roughly 50 Minutes Fresh, because the host segments went on for so long, I would actually have music changes. I would have different tracks that would play during the host segments and the analysis segments at the end, and these were just were set up to trigger the tracks when I wanted them to be queued up for like whatever was going on in the story. So like every time I moved to a new every time that I moved to a new level that I was discussing, I could trigger like a new music track, things like that. But yeah, I mean, it's ugly and it's kludgy, and I don't use it anymore, but there's no reason to really erase it, so I just kind of left it there. But you can see like a little bit of the background logic for how the show used to work, but otherwise it looks nice. It's relatively simple. I never did like that I can't quite seem to get this pipe to go exactly into this opening. It does kind of like hang down over the lip, and I don't like it, but I fiddled around with it and I just couldn't get it to look right. So again, I was just kind of like, fine, I guess it's just gonna be that way. So, but yeah, but I love this set. I love the set so much, and so that's why I made the effort to make sure that we could still have it in the show. And we could see that the last time we used it was fairly recently. This was back in February 10th, and we took a look at Wheelie, and Wheelie is an amazing level, so I wanted to have it in an amazing hub. And these were the tower hubs. Some of them are going to be deleted because, look, I've got so many. You would not believe like how much crap I've got on my moon, and I really got to get rid of some of it because I think having too much stuff is causing my profile to be corrupted a little bit more easily, and I do get profile corruptions like an awful lot, and I kind of hate it. So like, yeah, there's going to be stuff that's going to get deleted, and not this one though. This hub is not getting deleted, and the coffee shop hub is definitely not getting deleted because I love those. But I hope that you've enjoyed this little trip down memory lane with me. I hope that you've gotten something out of this, maybe a little bit of inspiration for making your own scenes and environments. Maybe not, I don't know, I just like talked a lot. At least you got some disco lore, some like I know I'm trans lore, so that maybe was interesting. I don't know, was it interesting? Let me know in the comments, or don't let me know in the comments. Maybe I could just imagine that you liked it. But that pretty much does it for us here at This Go About. So from me, Disco, here in Tokyo, to all of you out there, wherever you may happen to be, thank you, arigato, arigasamnota, sayonara, see you, and ciao.